Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Aditya here. We will continue our prompt engineering crash course. In that, the next topic I am going to cover is advanced prompt techniques. Until now, we have seen about evaluating of your prompt, right, performance, and also types of prompts we have covered. Now, we are going to cover these advanced prompt techniques. Okay, and these prompt techniques could be helpful for your future prompt engineering or designing your prompts. The first one is the zero shot prompting. So, what is this zero shot prompting? So, the prompt is simple and includes zero examples. So, here, whatever we are doing until now will comes under this category, that is zero shot prompting. So, here the model was not explicitly trained for the task, rather, it uses the general knowledge acquired during training. So, here we are not specifying or providing any explicit information to the prompt. Here we are just casually asking and it will reply based on the knowledge it acquired during the training. That's it. So this is the example. So if you see the zero shot prompting example, here I'm saying classify sentiment for the following text. And the text I provided this course is awesome. And the sentiment is the thing what we expect. And this sentiment could be based on the general knowledge acquired during the training of the model. So we are not specifying I need to be positive, negative, super, something, something. We are just asking the question. And we'll see how the sentiment will comes out if we ask this kind of generic zero shot prompting. So for that, I'm going to my prompt list and here I'm copying this prompt and going to chart GPT. I'm going to paste here. So here the prompt is simple. This is zero shot prompting where I'm not specifying any external knowledge to it. We are not specifying any explicit knowledge to it. So here I'm saying classify sentiment of the following text and text is this course is awesome. Now we'll see what was the response. And you can able to see that the sentiment is positive. So why it has given the positive? Because earlier in this session itself we did use the sentiment positive, negative, neutral. So that's why it's classified this particular text as positive, but that is fine. It given the response based on the general knowledge it acquired during the training. Okay, now moving on to the next prompting, that is few shot prompting. So this is somewhat advanced to the zero shot prompting. If you see this a prompt includes few contextual examples to enhance the model's performance for a given task. So here we are not going to provide extensive examples, but we are going to provide only few contextual examples. So you can see the below prompt here. So here I am saying classify the sentiment for the following text as superb, meh, or neutral. So the text I am giving this course is awesome, and the sentiment we are expecting is superb. And the next one is I am really confused by this course. And the sentiment we are expecting is meh, that is negative. And finally, it was so so. The sentiment we are expecting is neutral. Now we'll take this prompt and paste it in our chat GPT and see how it responds to this few short prompting example. Okay, so I am copying this prompt and pasting it in chat GPT and we'll see how it will respond now for these three tests. And here I'm saying classify the sentiment for the following test as superb, meh, or neutral. We'll see now. And here is the sentiment classification of each text. This course is superb. And I am really confused by this course is meh. It was so so comes under sentiment neutral. So here you provided explicitly the knowledge to the model. So based on the knowledge it responded to you. Earlier you don't provided any knowledge, that's why it's given positive based on its previous training, previous knowledge. Okay, so that is the difference between the zero shot and few shot prompting. Okay, and moving on to the next technique, that is chain of thought and least to most. So here what is chain of thought? Okay, so This kind of chain of thought used to solve the complex problems by breaking them into smaller steps. For example, if you have so much of big question, but instead of asking that big question to the chat GPT or these generative AI models, you would start with smaller questions. You ask the small questions one by one, and finally arrive what you are looking for. So now look at this example. So we incrementally ask questions to the model until we get the desired final result, so called chaining thoughts together. So one by one you are asking each one of the question and finally you will get what was the answer you are expecting. So in this example, I'm asking a question. I have a rectangular garden that's 20 feet long and 10 feet wide. How many square feet is that? So by using height and width, we can calculate the square feet and the answer is 200 square feet. So this is what we are expecting from the AI model. And the second question we are going to ask is, I want to cover the garden in mulch. One bag mulch covers 25 square feet and how many bags do I need? So you can consider it as a sand or mud, right? Mulch. So it will cover the whole garden, right? It took 25 square feet, right? One bag covers 25 square feet. Since we have 200 square feet, how many bags needed? So you need 8 bags of mulch. And each bag costs $5. Then how much it will cost to cover the entire garden? That is, since 8 bags is needed to cover the entire garden, 8 into 5, that is $40. So this is how the final thing what we need is the cost of the bag, the cost of all the bags to cover the whole garden, right? The cost, how much cost to cover the whole garden? That is the $40. To arrive this answer, we have given this chain of thoughts to the model so that model responded in the appropriate way. Now we'll take the same example and we'll see how this model behaves. So I'm going back to the my list of prompts here. I'm copying the first one. That is the first prompt, that is I have a rectangular garden that's 20 feet long and 10 feet wide. How many square feet is that? Now we'll see how the model responds. So it's saying 200 square feet. Okay, so to calculate square feet, it used area equal to length into width. And the next prompt, that is, I want to cover the garden in mud. One bag of mud covers 25 square feet. How many bags do I need? We'll see now. How many bags we need now. So as per this formula, right, total area is 200 square feet and coverage per bag is 25 square feet. It is using this formula and finally calculated it needed 8 bags of mulch to cover whole garden. And now the final prompt, that is how many each bag costs $5, then how much will it cost to me to cover the whole garden? That is 18 to 5, $40. Okay, now you got the final desired output, right? For this final desired output, you have asked three questions. So you divided your complex big problem into chunks and you started chaining those thoughts to your generative AI model. So that's what is called chain of thoughts. Okay. And one more thing is, right, most of the times model can chain themselves if you provide the whole question. For example, if you provide the whole question like this, right? I have a rectangular garden that's 20 feet long and 10 feet wide. I want to cover the garden in mulch, and one bag mulch costs 25 square feet. Each bag costs $5. How much will it cost to me to cover the whole garden? So you can give the whole question like this. So we'll try that. So I'm going to copy the whole question, right? Whole prompt instead of breaking down, and we'll see how the chat GPT will respond. Look, it itself it's calculating the garden and number of bags and total cost, and finally it arrived the $40 mark. Okay, and we need to say think step by step. So since this chat GPT is much more advanced now, it thinking step by step. Usually we have to give the whole question, and if you don't satisfy with the answer, right, you can say think step by step, which will give you each and every step what it follows to determine or to calculate the final cost. But anyway, we got all the steps properly in the previous example also or previous response also. Okay. Fine. And moving to the next one, that is least to most. So here we don't ask, right? We don't start with one simple question. We'll give the one question, the total question, and from that question we will ask most of the questions. So for example, here I have one question called it takes Elbra 10 minutes to play the first half of a miniature golf game, and it takes her 7 minutes to play the second half of the game. So first half she took 10 minutes and second half she took 7 minutes. The golf course closes in 3 hours. Okay, so she totally played 17 minutes, but she has 3 hours of time. So how many hours of golf she can play before the course closes? So before the course closure, how many hours she can play? So this was the question. And after this question, here we are asking some more questions from this list question. So first one we'll give only list prompt, and from that prompt we'll ask more questions. So that is why it is called least to most. So here I am asking how long does one total game took. So based on this answer, this is 17 minutes because 10 plus 7, that is 17 minutes. So how many minutes in 3 hours? Since we calculated the total game, right, in minutes, so we converted hours to minutes. And after that, what is the 180 by 17 will give? So 180 by 17 means since she plays 17 per one game, so 180 by 7 will give 10.5. That is nothing but total number of games. So by using this 10.5, if you round, it may comes to 10 or 11, but yeah, 10. So she will play 10 rounds for 3 hours. So this is how you can able to get the answer by using the least to most technique. And we'll do one thing, right? We'll take this prompt itself and we'll explore now. Now, I'm taking the same prompt, that is the question what we have asked at the earlier. This is the least question. It takes Albra 10 minutes to play the first half of a miniature golf game. It takes her 7 minutes to play the second half of the game. The golf course closes in 3 hours. How many hours of golf she can play before the course closes? Now we'll see. So now the chart GPT is calculating the time and all, and finally it's provided you 2.83 hours. Okay, so that is the 2.83 hours of golf before the course close. Okay, now we'll ask these questions one by one. How long does one total game take? Okay, so since we know that is 17 minutes, we'll see whether properly it gives the answer 17 minutes. And these are the steps it is followed to arrive the 17 minutes. The second one is how many minutes are there in 3 hours? Obviously, that is 180 minutes. This is a factual question. And what is 180 minutes divided by 17 minutes, right? Which will give around 10.5 some answer. And now if we ask, right, round down to the nearest whole number, it will give 10. Right? So she can play 10 rounds in 3 hours. Okay. So that is how this least to most prompting will work. And the next technique is generated knowledge prompting. So here we will give more knowledge to the prompt so that by using that knowledge, that prompt or AI model will respond to us. Okay, so we'll provide additional knowledge or context to improve the performance of complex tasks such as reasoning. So this will be useful during the reasoning. We'll see now. If you see this question, what would happen if the moon disappeared? And also I'm giving some knowledge like Earth rotates around an axis that is tilted at 23.5, and this is why we have seasons. Tidal movements play an important role in Earth's climate since they drive current, and the tidal force exerted by the moon causes Earth, and particularly water, to bulge out on a side closest to the moon. So this is the knowledge we are providing to it. And by using this knowledge, how ChatGPT or generative AI model will respond, we'll see now. Okay, but this is what we're expecting, right? If the moon disappeared, the earth tide would disappear. The moon causes the tides by its gravitational pull. So this is the answer. But yeah, all ChatGPT models or generative AI models don't give the same answer twice, but we'll see how it will respond for this reasoning question. Okay, so I have my prompt with knowledges, so I'm copying it. Now I am going to paste it in our ChatGPT and we'll see how this ChatGPT will respond to us. Okay, what would happen if moon disappeared and we are giving some knowledge to it, and right, we got the answer from the ChatGPT. If the moon were disappeared, several significant effects would occur on Earth. First one is changes in tidal movements. So that is the first thing. Impact on Earth rotation. Obviously, effects on Earth tilt and seasons, because we provided the tilt related information and tidal movement related information. It got created those points based on the things. Impact on climate and weather patterns. Okay, and it has used some of its knowledge and also the knowledge we have provided. Based on that, it provided the answer. Okay, this is how you can use this generated knowledge to the prompt. So you can use this generated knowledge prompt for the better results, especially in case of reasoning. Okay, moving on to the next prompting, that is generated prompting or generated knowledge code examples. So now we are going to use this technique to our code, right? Because since our software engineers, we need to explore this option. This option is very important. So for this option, right here, I'm saying here is the documentation of an API endpoint that converts between currencies. Write a Java method to call this method, and here I will provide my documentation code itself, right? And right, documentation code itself, and I'm saying use this documentation code and write a Java code to call this API. So this is very good example. In your use case, if you have documentation, your API documentation, you place your required documentation. Based on that, every time you will get your method, instead of you are manually going and writing for an uh, method to call these APIs. You can provide the API documentation and you can provide this prompt, and this generative AI will create a code for you. And API documentation is a great example of how to feed it knowledge and let it train on the fly with the updated document. Okay, so now we'll go to our chat GPT and we'll see how it gives you the answer. I'm copying here and going to chat GPT and going to paste the prompt. So here I'm documenting. Here the documentation of an API endpoint that converts between currencies. Write a Java method to call this code. And here I'm saying use some random example. Okay, now we'll see how it responds. So it's saying to create a Java method that calls an API endpoint currency conversion using exchange generate.au. You need these following steps. And it's given some following steps, and also it given some example code, right? Since I said use some random documentation example, it's using some random example, but it provided the whole code, right? And also it provided the key points like that. So you use your original API documentation here instead of some random example, and on the fly generative AI model will give you this code, and you don't need to worry about updating the API endpoints and all. You can reuse the code. So that is how you can provide knowledge, generate knowledge to your prompt, so that your prompt will generate a proper response to you. Okay, so this is about the advanced prompting techniques: zero prompting, zero shot prompting, few shot prompting, and after that, generated knowledge for the code, and chain of thoughts, at least once to most. Okay, so these are all prompting techniques, advanced prompting techniques, which will be useful for your future prompt engineering. And that's about this advanced prompt techniques. Thanks for watching my video. If you like my video, like, share, and subscribe, and let me know in the comments if you want to know further more concepts. Thank you. Bye.